To everyone at Oakwood, I was just Arya Sterling, the quiet one on the third floor, always heating leftovers in reused containers, the woman with 3 dependable outfits and a discount coffee habit. They didn't know about the double life. The real one. The name Sterling didn't just sit on my ID badge. It sat on skyscrapers, oil contracts, and offshore holding. I was the only daughter of Arthur Sterling. But I worked a job like everyone else, clocked in, smiled at birthday cakes in the break room, and counted pennies because I chose to. I met Ethan on a fluke, a health fair our insurance department helped sponsor. He dropped a folder. I picked it up. Classic. He was a med student from Baylor, the kind that had dreams bigger than his bank account. We talked, laughed, had coffee in a plastic cup. 1 month later, he moved into my humble apartment, bringing a mattress, a rice cooker, and a crooked smile. I paid for everything, the rent, his tuition, the groceries. He never asked, I never said. Because this wasn't a test for him. It was for me. I had to know, could someone love Arya the ordinary? Not the Arya with stocks and drivers and family lawyers. Just me. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. sharp, my act ended. I left Oakwood, drove to the Regent Underground, and stepped into silk, heels, and secrets. I traded my beat-up sedan for the Aston Martin my trust leased in silence. And then I drove home, the real home, past gates and guards and gardens no one at Oakwood would believe existed. My father waited, always in the same chair, always with the same question. How long, Arya? And my answer never changed. Until I know he loves me, Dad. He never liked it. True love doesn't hide. Maybe he was right. Maybe not. But I had to see this through. In the dim light of my kitchen, Ethan had once slid a modest ring across the table. No box, no grand gesture. Just a promise. And in that moment, with microwave hum and leftover stew between us, I had smiled like it was a crown. Because if he could love me here, like this, in the small spaces, maybe, just maybe, he was the one I could give everything to. Even the penthouse key. The alarm hit 5:15 a.m. like a punch, and I slipped out of bed before Ethan stirred. Most days, I walked to work. Not because I couldn't afford gas, but because I needed to stretch every excuse to keep my life believable. Ethan once smiled and told me, "You're so frugal, Arya. With you, I can do anything." I smiled back, never mentioning the check I slid into his textbook that morning, $5,200, tucked right under his notes. "Don't forget breakfast," I said, pretending the leather lunch bag I packed wasn't once a limited edition designer piece, now serving a second life. But behind the curtain of my daily act, doubt started whispering louder. My apartment was small, cold in the mornings, noisy at night. Every corner reminded me of the life I was pretending to live. And then there was the estate, quiet, sleek, untouched. My housekeeper handed me reports while sipping a martini, asking if I'd seen the latest numbers from Tokyo. I'd stare out at the city lights from my balcony and wonder, if he saw all this, would he still hold me the same way? Or would he hold tighter to the account behind it? Then he changed. Ethan got a new watch. He said it was from an end-of-year sale, but I knew that watch. No discounts. No sales. Thursdays grew suspicious. He came home late, claimed study group. But his textbooks were untouched, sitting exactly where I'd left them. One night, I slid a tracker onto the spare key I'd given him. When I checked the location, my breath caught. The apex. Not a library, not a classmate's place. A high-end complex in River Oaks. I stared at my secret account, watched the numbers sink. That night, he walked in late again, smelling like cologne I'd never bought, mixed with perfume that was too sweet, too expensive. "Lab issues," he said, brushing past the dinner I'd spent an hour making. I didn't speak. The next morning, I found the receipt. Azure Seafood, $184. For 2. Dated the same night he said he was studying. He started guarding his phone like it was gold. But he forgot about the old one he claimed was wiped. It wasn't. I powered it on, shaking. The texts were there. One in particular. "Haven't forgotten Riverstone, bring the ring, love how it feels." My heart sank. Then came the receipt hidden in his sock drawer. $1, 250 diamond earrings from Livia and Company. Bought on the night he blamed traffic. I checked. There was no traffic. Just another lie. I arrived at the Oakwood Med Student Gala late. Not because I wanted to avoid attention, but because I needed to see the truth when no one expected me. The moment I walked in, I saw him, laughing too hard, too loud, like someone who didn't have secrets eating him from the inside. He was with a group of med students, drinks in hand, glowing under the chandeliers like he belonged there more than I ever did. I paused behind a column. One of his friends leaned in and joked, "Still with the super frugal roommate?" Ethan grinned, not even flinching. "Yeah, long-term roommate. Easier to call it that." There it was. The words that stripped it all bare. I wasn't his partner. I was a convenience. A placeholder. A walking credit line with a heartbeat. I walked up, silent and calm. He turned and saw me. His eyes flickered with guilt before he recovered. "Arya." I was just telling them how you pack my breakfast. Every morning like clockwork, he laughed, trying to pull me into the joke. I smiled thinly. Didn't say a word. I left before dessert. Cold. Clear. I met Cassandra Vale the next day. We sat in a small cafe downtown, far from the glossy River Oaks life Ethan pretended to hate. She looked sharp, composed, like someone who had rebuilt herself after walking through fire. He called me controlling, she said flatly. Let me guess. He said I was the reason he struggled. I nodded. She didn't blink. He always finds a reason why it's your fault. Why he needs saving. Until he doesn't. I told her I'd given him more than $33,000. Tuition transfers, rent payments, car repairs. She didn't look surprised. Instead, she pulled out her laptop and turned the screen toward me. A photo, grainy, low quality. A spreadsheet. Names in the first column. Amounts in the second. Labels. Emily, Nora, Cassandra. Support given. Duration. Status. He tracked us like projects, she said. Like we were stages in some twisted investment plan. And there I was, though not listed on the screen. I knew I was the next page. When I got home, I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I waited. I pulled out the anatomy book he never opened anymore. Inside the back cover, taped under a glossary page, was the spare key. He didn't know I knew. He underestimated how observant I could be. Or how quiet. In his lockbox drawer, beneath piles of fake intern paperwork and dusty flashcards, I found it. A black spiral notebook. Simple. Ordinary. Except it wasn't. It was a ledger. Page by page, he'd detailed every woman. Every dollar. Every lie. Clean handwriting. Bullet points. Evaluations like a business plan. Emily. Dental assistant. 9 months. $18,400. Transition to Cassandra. Limited long-term value. Cassandra. Clinic coordinator. $25,200. Stable commitment. Terminated early due to signs of emotional independence. Then me. Aria. Hospital admin. $32,100. High support potential. No suspicion. No close family. Engaged. Possible residency sponsor. Maintain until graduation. I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt something colder. Like ice crawling into my lungs. And then there was Chloe. Physician's daughter. Owns a condo at the Apex. Testing intimacy. Viable upgrade. Strong family influence. Risk. Parental interference. Chloe was the reason for the perfume. The late nights. The seafood receipt. The earrings. The shift in tone when he kissed me like he was already somewhere else. I closed the notebook. Took photos of every page. Sent Cassandra a message. We're not victims. We're evidence. She replied instantly. You in? I typed one word. Yes. That night, I created a folder. Labeled it Project Sterling. Password protected. Uploaded every transaction, every screenshot, every voicemail, every photo. Backed it up to 3 separate drives. I wasn't going to the police. Not yet. I had something better in mind. Because he thought I was just another name in his notebook. Another woman who would walk away quietly, ashamed. But he forgot one thing. I wasn't someone he found. I was someone he never deserved. He kept records. Now, so would I. The invitation came in a white envelope with gold trim, embossed in letters too proud for their meaning. Celebrating Dr. Ethan Reed, an evening of gratitude and new beginning. I almost laughed. Gratitude? New beginnings? The irony was so thick it nearly suffocated me. He didn't know that everything, the lights, the floral arrangements, the 5-tier cake, was paid for by 3 Sterling-owned companies. Crimson Oak Events handled the venue. Silver Spoon Company was doing the catering. Echo Lux Productions ran the tech. He thought it was his supportive co-workers pulling strings for a rising star. In truth, I signed off on every invoice. Every little luxury he thought he earned. His mother, Eleanor Reed, was behind the invite. She'd always looked at me like I came with a sale tag. Too simple, too plain, too poor. And now, she'd get her perfect moment. The polished son in his tailored suit, the glowing speeches, the donors, the prestige. A clean future, untainted by the woman who packed his breakfast in second-hand Tupperware. That was the illusion. But illusions crack when the spotlight hits just right. I arrived late on purpose. The grand ballroom at the Hyatt Regency shimmered under gold chandeliers. Guests filled every seat. I walked in wearing black satin and silence. The ring still on my finger. Not because I cherished it, but because symbols matter. As I entered, I noticed a few heads turn. Murmurs. I didn't belong to this world tonight, and yet I owned every inch of it. I approached Ethan's circle. He stood laughing beside Eleanor, surrounded by donors and classmates. When he saw me, his smile faltered. Eleanor looked me over and said flatly, I thought you had a night shift? I smiled. Shifted it. She turned, annoyed. You're disrupting. Shall I call security? I walked past her without a word, toward the head table. Picked up Ethan's champagne glass. All eyes on me now. I took the ring off slowly, let it fall into the glass with a sharp clink. A sound that cut through the music, and laughter like a blade. Congratulations, Dr. Reed, I said loud enough for the room to hear. May you find plenty of new investors. Just hope they don't ask for refund. Gasps. Awkward laughter. Whispers behind hands. Ethan froze. Eleanor's face twisted into something bitter and broken. I didn't stay to see more. I turned and walked out, straight-backed, heels echoing on marble. The rings stayed in the glass. The past stayed with them. But I didn't go back to the apartment I'd been suffocating in. I drove downtown. The valet at Sterling Tower recognized me instantly. Welcome back, Miss Sterling. Been a while. It has, I said. I'll be staying more often now. The private elevator took me to the 41st floor, the penthouse overlooking the city like it owed me something. Everything in the space was silent, tasteful, expensive, and mine. I slid the glass doors open and stepped out onto the balcony. The skyline glittered like shattered glass. Below it, all the lives I'd let myself be small for. I picked up my phone and dialed. It's me. Arthur Sterling answered with the weight of someone who'd always been waiting. Are you ready to be a Sterling again? I took a deep breath. More ready than ever. I walked into Oakwood Medical Center not as the frugal billing girl anymore, but as the daughter of Arthur Sterling, armored in a Max Mara power suit, Hermes bag at my side, and heels that clicked like a ticking clock. No badge, no casual smile, no lunch bag of leftovers. Just purpose. The front desk attendant blinked. Do you have an appointment? I'm expected, I said and kept walking. Up the elevator to the 10th floor, executive administration. I'd never been there before, but I'd paid for enough people who had. The doors opened, and inside the boardroom sat Dr. Helena Vance, the residency director. Sharp eyes, controlled posture, the kind of woman who didn't waste time. Good. Neither did I. I placed the folder down in front of her. This is about Dr. Ethan Reed. I believe you'll want to see this. She opened the file. First, scanned check records showing over $32,000 transferred from my account to Ethan's over the last 2 years. Next, a photo of Cassandra's old Excel spreadsheet, columns for women's names, amounts given, time invested, and Ethan's notes on when to replace them. Then came the messages, screenshots of don't text, she's suspicious, the diamond earring receipt, the dinner bills, the romantic notes meant for someone else. Last came the copied notebook pages. Emily, 9 months, $18,400, transitioned. Cassandra, $25,200, terminated early. Aria, $32,100, high support potential, no suspicion, possible residency sponsor. Chloe, viable replacement for Aria if residency succeeds. Vance read in silence. Her brow never lifted, but her fingers paused at the last page. This is detailed, she said carefully. I nodded. I'm protecting Oakwood's reputation. This man calculated every dollar he extracted from vulnerable women. He played us like investors. Is that who you want representing this hospital? She closed the folder. This conversation never happened. You'll hear from us within 48 hours. 42 hours later, Ethan's name was quietly removed from the incoming residency list. No announcement, no headline, just failure to meet ethical standards. I didn't smile. I just exhaled. Then came the next part. The harder part. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about exposure. Patterns. Warnings. I met Marcus Thorne, one of the top civil litigation attorneys on Sterling's private roster. We sat across from each other in a glass-walled conference room downtown, silence between us thick with potential. I don't want just money, I told him. I want justice. I want names. And I want this pattern ended. He opened the folder I slid over. You came prepared. We always do, I said. Cassandra joined soon after. Then Sabrina, then Gemma. All women, all drained of time and trust by the same man. The amounts varied, the lies stayed the same. I see potential in you. I just need someone to believe in me. I'll pay you back when residency starts. He never paid back a dime. Marcus began building the civil case. Emotional distress, financial exploitation, fraud under false pretenses. Each woman signed on. And suddenly Ethan had 4 plaintiffs and counting. But civil court wasn't our only battlefield. Eleanor Reed had her claws in Houston's brokerage world through her firm, Haven Group. Unfortunately for her, half of her portfolio relied on Sterling-owned land. 1 email from me, and 3 of her commercial listings disappeared. A week later, a major development deal collapsed after we lost confidence in Haven's capacity to represent our assets. That same night, I got a message from Ethan. We need to talk. What you're doing is insane. You'll regret this. I didn't reply. I just forwarded it to Marcus. 1 more piece of evidence. 1 more nail. Then came the silence. That slow, heavy, satisfying quiet when predators realize their teeth are dull. Ethan stopped posting on social media. Eleanor went radio silent in local broker circles. Cassandra got a job offer in Dallas. I wasn't running anymore. I was reconstructing. But not just for me. I took my modest ring, the one he gave me in a diner booth, and dropped it into a small velvet box. I didn't keep it out of sentiment. I kept it as evidence. A reminder of how low I'd stooped to prove I was lovable on a discount. That box stayed in my top drawer at Sterling Tower. Alongside it, another folder began to grow, new names of women reaching out. Some he had hurt, some with similar stories, some thanking me for not staying silent. It wasn't revenge. It was arithmetic. He treated us like data. So I responded with precision. Calculations, records, dossiers, quiet justice. The world didn't need to hear me scream. It needed to hear me document. And that's what I did. One receipt, one name, one shift of power at a time. The ballroom was glowing. Everything looked expensive, gold lights, polished floors, people in perfect clothes. And above it all, a banner that read, D'Amour Sponsor, Sterling Healthcare Initiative. That was mine, quiet, powerful, and with purpose. I walked in alone, wearing a teal dress that fit just right. No one walked beside me. I didn't need them to. I heard people whisper as I passed. Some greeted me by name. Miss Sterling, CFO of Sterling Foundation. Their voices were full of respect now. They saw me differently. And finally, I saw myself differently too. Then I spotted him. He stood near the back, lost in the crowd, wearing a cheap suit that didn't belong in this room. He looked small, nervous. He wasn't shining anymore. He wasn't surrounded by praise. Just standing there, looking like a boy in a room full of adults. When his eyes met mine, he didn't smile. He didn't wave. He froze. And I just looked at him calm. I sat at my table, waited, listened. Then they called me to the stage. I stood in front of everyone, took a deep breath, and spoke. I used to think that loving someone meant standing behind them, I said. Helping quietly, giving everything and asking for nothing. I believed that one day it would be enough. I paused. But now I understand. True support means standing up. Not just for others, but for yourself. Especially when something is wrong. The room was silent. I raised my glass. I looked once slowly, toward Ethan's corner. I didn't need to say his name. To Ethical Foundations, I said, and sipped my drink. Then I walked off stage. Dr. Helena Vance stopped me with a smile. You should join the Ethics Review Committee, she said. We need someone like you. I'd be glad to, I answered. As I left, I caught Eleanor Reed's eyes. For the first time, she looked unsure, almost ashamed. She didn't say a word. She just looked down. That was all I needed from her. Outside, the night air felt fresh. I stood under the stars, peaceful, strong. And in my mind, one clear truth stayed with me. I gave love. I gave trust. And I was used. But I didn't scream. I didn't break. I stood up. I fought smart. I made sure justice happened, quietly and completely. The best revenge wasn't getting even. It was rising so far above him that he couldn't reach me anymore. It was showing him that I never truly needed him, and I never will again. My name is Arya Sterling, and I am no one's fool.